Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Hey, Jared Sick. Jared, what was he? Jared the...
He had a cold upon
No,
his chest.
but what was his thing last time? Jared Brandon. Yeah, as himself or whatever. I can't remember what he said. It was
playing
hilarious.
the part of Jared Brandon.
Yes, playing the part of Jared Brandon is nobody tonight. He's sick. So our thoughts are with our pal Jared, who's sick. Anyways, hey everybody, it's me, Todd. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We are thrilled to death that you are listening to our show, the Guitar Knobs podcast. We've got a very special return guest tonight. Ooh. Yeah, return guest. Who is you?
Alec Breslow from Mask Audio Electronics.
Right on. Now, Alec and I were talking this week, and it was weird because we realized we had him on, I think, 2 years ago.
2 years, wow.
Yeah, 2 years. I had to go back and listen to it because I'm like, was it really 2 years? It was 2 years ago. It's like if you try to remember any specifics from last year, 2020, it's like, oh yeah, that nothing happened.
Yeah.
My brain's just like, it's like CRT screen static.
Half the people know what you're talking about.
I'm incredibly young for that reference.
Yes. So that was episode 148. We're almost at 248 right now.
Oh, wow.
So that was 100 episodes ago.
We should have waited until 248.
Crazy. That came out in October 17th, 2019.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
At that time, well, we'll get it. We'll save that.
Save it.
Just remember the date. Everybody out there, when I say what was the date, you can tell me what the date was. All right,
Todd.
Yeah.
What is it that we do on this show?
Well, and you know what? Maybe our friend Alec can tell everybody what we do on the show.
Well, we talk about gear.
Yes.
We talk about noise and nonsense. Sometimes we have educational 101s on, changing guitar speakers, sometimes about pickups. But we like to interview small gear makers, those that from the odder corners of the gear community.
The
that
boutique
make
builders,
things you love.
if you will.
Yeah.
Yes. That excellent wordage.
It's not small in stature builders making things, or
small in size,
or small in size, or people making small things in size. Although they do.
Well, I was about to say sometimes you do, like an A-wall pedals, those
Yes.
really tiny ones. Yeah, they're pretty small.
That was pretty good, man. We were both looking at each other, just like, wow, that's really good. You get the job.
Yes,
you passed the audition.
Yeah. So if you're a first-time listener, we welcome you, and we're really, really. Honestly, we're thrilled that you are listening. And if you're a return, that's even better because that means we did something right the first time and you came back for seconds or maybe even thirds or 245ths. So let's see here. We've got a great show tonight. We're going to be talking to Alec about all the things that he's been doing since, which I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, he has been doing a lot. In fact, Mask has been referenced several times in guests. I feel like, especially lately, you got your fingers in a lot of pies. I feel like, Alec.
I know a lot of people.
Yeah, good. Well, we're gonna dig all into that. Let's see here. We're gonna announcements wise. We are wrapping up the year, ladies and gentlemen, and it has been a real doozy. We'll share a little bit more about that, and I think maybe next episode we'll touch on a couple of those things. But we are looking forward to 22. All right, so we don't have any major announcements coming up right now, although I think by this time we will have announced who won the Vader and pedals for sure.
Yes.
The two of those, so... clap for whoever won that. Yay! Right on. Now, we got a note from Jono. Jono shared a lot with us, and it was great from Australia. He also shared his, I guess his 4 on the floor with us. So we thought, well, why not? Let's hear what our friend down in Australia is using. So he says, pedal 1 would be my Morley volume wah. Mm-hmm. It mainly gets used as a volume for ambient swells with lots of reverb. It a buffered pedal, which isn't that great, but I like the volume arc it gives me, and I haven't found a volume I like more. Okay, all right.
There you go. Use what you like.
Number 2, currently my MXR Sugar Drive with the treble and drive at the 3 o'clock position. I am not familiar with the Sugar Drive. Alec, are you familiar with the Sugar Drive?
I remember its color and I remember it sounding good, but other than that, I'm not super familiar with it.
Interesting. Well, one we'll have to dig into.
All right.
Number 3 would be the Old Blood Noise Endeavor's Dark Star for some nice ambient washes and pitch shifting goodness. It's a great pedal.
It's an excellent pedal.
Yeah.
That big crush mode, perfection.
It's been mentioned many a time. And let's see. And then this last pedal is the TC Electronic Nova Repeater. That came up actually several times early on. I think it was like mentioned, maybe not several, at least twice it was mentioned early on in the 4 on the Floor.
Oh.
And we started that years ago.
Yeah.
So the TC Electronic Nova Repeater, that's an older pedal. That's an older TC one.
That's like from like 8 or something.
Yeah, it's
I remember
like before they
those were out
shift
when
the
I first got
form.
into pedals.
Yep. It was one of those multi-knob, kind of deals. Well, I guess most pedals have multiple knobs. Anyways, it was wide and
It was a big box.
yeah, it had all the things. Anyways, which has been amazingly versatile with heaps of different delay combinations. Maybe a couple of honorable mentions would be the Walrus Audio Contraband Fuzz and the Boss DD8 delay.
Classic.
Yep. Well, we sure do thank Jono from Australia for sharing that with us. And it's we always get new ones that it's like, wow, I've never heard of that, or oh, there's a throwback to the we see especially like the TC. That's one of those ones that we see at the used store.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while we'll see one of those old TCs. They're not the best looking pedal. Just because it was in a weird spell where everything just kind of looked kind of meh. But it was been brought up a couple times, so it must be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I owned one way back in the day, and the ping pong mode on it especially was very good.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I hear. I say yes, like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I haven't played that pedal, but, maybe if I'm lucky someday I will. All right. Well, that was lovely, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on over and find out what's going on in Tony's Corner with what in the world we done in our Guitar Week, Music Week this week. It's running away from my mouth. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, Todd, since you asked. This week, as I've often said, I have, when it comes to guitars and things, if I'm finishing a project, I'm usually starting something new. So, true to form, I have started a new project. And this one is going to be a Fender Meteora build. So now, for those who don't know what the Meteora is, it's kind of like if you took a Mustang.
Wait. Can you hear Jared?
Yeah, I mean, you could get a little bit more on the mic.
A Meteora! So if you took a Mustang and then you pulled on the corner, the treble side, and just stretched it, and it's this really weird body shape. I think the original one was shown at like the 2012 NAMM show, and it was a little bit different than what they actually put into production. But I found a pine body version of it, which I do like using pine on a lot of projects, especially larger body instruments. And I decided, since I don't have any shell pink guitars, that I am going to do this one in shell pink.
Excellent choice.
Yeah.
Wow.
And as it turns out, the shell pink is like the rarest of all Fender custom colors. There are only, in the 60s, I think it's like 5 or 6 instruments that are known to be truly shell pink. and they phased it out, I think, by 65 or 66. But I'm seeing a lot. It seems to be a pretty popular color, and not only on Fenders, but on a lot of other models. And some are truer to form. But I also, in fact, I did a pick guard for John Esterly for one of his Cyclones, and which was also shell pink. And we used a material that is kind of a pinkish and blackish and grayish and greenish shell material. And it's not the most attractive material by itself, but when you put it against shell pink, it looks really cool. And it looks literally like the inside of like an abalone shell.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to use that, and it's a large guard, and I just want to make an obnoxious guitar.
Well, you're on your way there, Buster.
So I've got all the parts. Most of the parts and pickups and things I had in stock. It's going to have a Tele bridge with a Tele bridge pickup, and then I'm going to use a standard humbucker in the neck. And yeah, it's going to be kind of cool. And the pine body, I think with all the routing and everything I did, is down to about 3.5 pounds, which is pretty nice for given the size of the body. It's a pretty ginormous.
Yeah, they're
guitar.
sizable.
Yeah. So that's what's going on in my music world this week. I'm going to have it finished and then I'll assemble it probably sometime in January.
Outstanding. That's great, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
How about yourself there, Alec?
Luckily, I do have something to talk about outside of Mask Audio. Yay. So yesterday I had a good mail day and I got 2 new pedals.
Ooh.
Same day. Ooh, yeah, 2. So the first was from good friend and collaborator Jordan from Pinebox Customs.
Yeah.
Who I will talk a little bit more about later. Tease. But we went on as part of what we've been working on. We went on some big buys that we split up. So he needed to mail me some parts. And alongside that was his Sirens chorus modulator. It's one half of his Siren. I'm messing things up. Sorry, Jordan. He mailed me a Siren. It is one half of his Sirens pedal. And basically it's a very short delay that it can get up in the chorus territory, or you can drag out the delay time so it starts to become a delay, but there's no feedback to it, so it doesn't keep repeating. You have at most one repeat, but it does have all sorts of really weird modulating options. Right now I have it set to a square wave, which every time it warps, you play a note, it goes whoop! Has a little pitch shift to it, which is fun. I also received from my friend Clint at Deep Space Devices Dust.
Clint McDuffie.
Yeah, the man. So we kind of did trade. He got an early Cascader from me, which I will also talk about later. So in trade, he sent me a Dust, and I've been having fun with it. To describe Dust, the best way to describe it is it's an unhinged delay. It's got one big saucer knob on it that controls simultaneously delay time and fuzz. It's weird and hard to describe without you listening to it. But it is tons of fun to play. It's got a secondary foot switch that kind of does, I associate as the DD3 stutter trick, where you just hit the knob and it just repeats whatever you played back very quickly. So it kind of sounds like it's glitching out.
I'm going to make a pedal, and I'm going to call that the Billy Joel. It's just going to say the Billy Joel button.
Heart attack, tack, 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 tack.
There you go.
I got it. Took a second, but I got there.
Just a button that just says Billy Joel. I love
it's
it.
Just his face.
Somebody please do that. Oh, that's fantastic.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's only Tuesday, so there's plenty of time for more music stuff, but that's the stuff I can talk about.
All
hey,
right.
Todd.
Yes.
What's going on in your music week?
Well, let me tell you, I'm glad that you asked. I had a heck of a week because this is coming from a person who has not. I really don't buy a lot of stuff. I don't have I've talked about this. I've got I'm a man with responsibilities, and but it just so happens that I've swung a couple deals here and there. I am always on Craigslist.
Always.
A couple times a day. I'm not even, it's no lie. I swear. For a person who's not buying everything, I spend a lot of time looking for things to buy. But I think in that, I also get a lot of like knowledge of like what's out there, what's trending, what am I seeing with, like, all of a sudden if you go like, wow, that's the fourth pedal like that I've seen, out here and about what's going on. Anyways, I was scrolling and I was just kind of, yep, seeing that. And then I stopped and I was like, and it went reverse. And I found this picture and I was like, what is that? That was a Sound City Concord combo amplifier. Never seen one. I wasn't looking for one either. So that's also one of the reasons I've never seen it. But I've also never seen it because it's a pretty rare bird to begin with. Even rarer still because it is the, I guess that's a blonde. It's a blonde chassis.
Tolex.
Blonde Tolex. Yeah, the whole thing. And the thing that really caught my eye is that there is sort of a wide, maybe about like a 5-inch tall aluminum panel on the front, and it's all sliders. It's so cool. And it's got a VU meter on it, so it, like an old stereo.
As opposed to a UV meter.
Yes, as opposed to a UV meter. And it has the a power switch that tells you whether it's on standby. So it's like a big old like recording console button, a big rectangle button that's red and white. Was. It is so neat, and it is in great shape for being what we believe is probably about a 68, 69, maybe a 70.
Yep.
And it works. All the sliders, like there's no crackle at all in the sliders. All the
that's lucky.
Yeah. And Tony, who knows everything, is like, well, he told me that there's Fane speakers in there. Right now, there are the Sound City stickers on top of it.
Yeah, well, Fane made those for Sound City.
And I'm so what can you tell us about anything?
I mean, they're just, for what you have in that amp, even if the amp didn't work, the speaker value alone is that. Those were, what's cool is they've got square magnets.
Yeah.
As opposed to the more typical round ones.
Yep.
But yeah, I think
they're original. Everything's original.
It's a legendary speaker right up there with Celestion and bunches of others. Yeah. But I think you did very well on this, especially since everything's working and no snap, crackles, or pops. But yeah, I think
it's noisy because it's got it doesn't have the ground.
Well, I think
power and the caps and stuff.
In all likely, it's going to need filter caps.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
it's made by Dallas Arbiter.
Yep.
In the UK.
Yep, and
it's just one of the neatest amps I've ever seen because it's so interesting and weird, and it's like the form factor nothing's been made like that. Really since.
It's definitely a product of the times.
Yeah.
Now, I can't remember. You sent me the photos. Does that have like a switchable 120, 220?
It has a...
It's like a jumper system?
What is the... It's a name for... I'm trying to remember. Sensitivity. It's got a sensitivity switch on the back. Okay. And these toggles are like the kind of toggles that you would find in like on a tractor. I mean, they are massive. It's not like toggles these days. These are like big old, like you're flipping on the city's power grid with these things. I think it's called a sensitivity. And what that is, it basically gives you the bottom end. Like if you go to so if you have sensitivity 1, this is about a 50, we think it's about a 50 watt amp. There's some numbers that I'm trying to clarify just doing research on this. In some cases, depending on what year it is, it might have ranged from 40 to 50, something like that.
Is it what, 2 EL84 or 34s?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a 40, 50 watt amp.
Yeah. Anyways, so it gets, it'll get nice and loud. If you switch it to sensitivity 2, it's like, oh my God. And the good thing is it isn't just louder. It's like it moves the air. Like you can feel it. It's like it's a firm thwap. When you're playing, you're like, oh yeah, this is good. It's also really interesting because it has 2 channels. So, and within those 2 channels, there's 2 inputs for each channel. So, in theory, you could have 4 guitars plugged into this thing.
A couple of microphones, you got yourself
right?
a PA.
It's just a whole band. And it also has it's got a reverb slider, and it's just the volume on the reverb. There is a reverb tank in the bottom, but you can't control anything but the volume on the reverb. I'm just really tickled by it, and I got a killer deal on it. And this is one of those instances where you find someone on Craigslist, you go to the guy's house, and he had great Craigslist etiquette. We talked a deal. I said this. He said, "How about this?" I said, "Let's meet in the middle." And he said, "Sold." He could have got more offers from the original price, but he's like honoring the first person that came. And I appreciated that. Went to his house, and he's standing outside on his lawn, and he's an older dude, probably. I mean, he's got to be in his 60s, anyways, and long hair, and he's just out there on the lawn, and he's got his Harley in the garage and everything. I'm like, this is gonna be good. We went down. We had great conversation, and this guy it was like walking into like 1976. Nothing had changed. And he had just this wall of Marshalls and wall of PAs. And he had like his whole touring rig, like the PAs, the lights, everything. And then all on the walls, it was like all the photos from like the different bands that he's been in and all the guys. And at one point, they're all standing around this white, like a 76 Corvette. I was like, this is awesome. And he was just sharing his stories and stuff. At which point, I said, you got a lot of guitars there. And he said, yeah, I've been, got quite a few. He's getting ready to move. So he's like, well, I'm going to be selling some of these. I'm like, well, what do you mean?
Jared could always use a couple more.
Well, he's like, well, I got a couple Strats. And I was like, oh, let me stop you right there. What else do you have? And he said, well, we got to talking, and he said, I got this one, but this is going to the grave with me. And I said, oh, would you show it to me? He's like, I was hoping you'd ask. And he brings out it's a Les Paul. He said, now, when I graduated from college in 1974, or high school in 1974, he said, I could have got a ring or a jacket, Letterman jacket or whatever. And he said, I bought this. And it was a 74 20th anniversary Black Beauty.
Oh.
That had been toured.
Yeah.
And the wear on it was like, I mean, it was like something you'd see in any one of the magazines or sites that we like, where he was pointing out all this stuff. He says, see these dings right here, these dings on the top? Man, this drunk girl was climbing all over these PAs, and the whole thing fell down on me, hit me in the bed. And it's like, he's got a story for every little ding. Yeah. And it's like, that's a piece of history. Aside from the beautiful guitar, gold hardware, which there's hardly any gold left on it. Yeah. All the white binding is all completely yellow, just beautiful. And the neck, like, well, almost all the paint had been, rubbed off. And he said, see all this? That's me. And so it was great. And here's a guy who's sharing his piece of history with me, which I truly appreciated. I mean, we talked for quite a long time, and not only because the guitar was like, wow, this is a really great looking guitar, or the year is really interesting, or it's a 20th anniversary. It's like the shows that had seen, the heartache that thing had probably seen, the ups, the downs, the fights, the celebrations, the music that had been written on it, the songs that had been written on it, songs that had been played on it, like as much emotion and personal experience and connection and passion that goes into playing or writing songs and stuff. It's all in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was a really special piece, and I really appreciated him for showing that to. So Mike, hopefully you're listening. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for showing that to me, and thanks for the great deal on the amp, buddy.
Yeah. Hear, hear.
Well,
Hey, Alec.
Hey, Tony.
You're a pedal guy, right?
I own a few.
How do you, as a pedal guy, connect your pedals?
Well, I have these little patch cables.
Just ordinary patch cables?
Just some ordinary, just molded cables.
You know what? I've got a tip for you today.
Really?
I want you to go over to tourgeardesigns.com.
yes.
Check out
I'm not
these.
supposed to come in yet. Sorry.
No, Todd. Back off, Todd. Tour Gear Design patch cables. These, all of us here and many of our listeners have really enjoyed purchasing these cables. They're flat. It's a flat cable. Mm-hmm. The ends are very tiny.
Diameter of a jack.
The diameter of a jack. They come in a couple of different shapes. There's
C
a C shape
and S.
and don't forget the W shape. They're working on that one still.
Yeah.
And they're very affordable. Did I say that?
Extremely.
They're made by humans. They're inspected by humans. When you open up this thing
In Canada.
in Canada,
Toronto.
and you open up the little
think.
packet, and it's someone's initials who actually tested this cable are on there.
Yep.
And yes, they're Canadian, but the shipping is incredibly fast.
And cheap.
And yeah, almost non-existent.
Yep. Head on over to tourgeardesigns.com and enter the guitar knobs, all one word, the
one
guitar
word.
knobs. You're going to save 10% on your entire order. And
That's
we
an
say
extra 10%.
It's an extra 10% on your entire order. And we say your entire order because once you're there, I promise you, you're going to want to nab a handful of them.
Just a bunch.
And it's one thing to connect one pedal to another. But when I was talking about the Concord amp,
Yep.
the very first thing I did when I got that home was grabbed the R2R Rangemaster, the amp top one, which required about a foot long cable.
Yes.
Fortunately, I had a foot long patch cable.
Nice.
I didn't have to go get a guitar cable and have like 10 feet of it or 15 feet of it.
Yep.
I just went whoop right down there, and it was beautiful. It worked fantastic. We highly recommend these. We use them ourselves. TourGearDesigns.com. Go to the code and put in the guitar knobs and have yourself a ball. Thanks so much to Tour Gear for sponsoring our 4 on the Floor.
I'm going there now.
How about a little bit of this?
You actually scared me. I ruined my chair.
He almost fell off the ledge.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor. All right, Alex from Mask Audio Electronics. This is your 4 on the Floor version 2, Mark 2.
Mark 2.
If you want to, be
Yes.
all what the cool kids are saying.
Yes.
All right, what do you got for us?
So, luckily this time I didn't have to arduously go over what I had to think this time. I had 3 that I knew I wanted, and then the last one took a while. But so number 1 is the Dudzik Amps Augustus. So it is an octave fuzz. It's yellow. It's got a big octopus with the olive crown on it. But it's just it's an octave fuzz, but it's very musical, and most settings you wouldn't even know it has an octave. Really? It is just, it's very slight. It kind of fades in.
So it's just almost kind of in the background, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain settings where you could bring it out more, but the setting I like is actually with the gain slightly under noon, the meat control, which is the bass control, down all the way, and the volume set pretty high and the tone set wide open. And it has this immediacy that not a lot of fuzzes have. The only other fuzz I could compare it to is the Infinitum Driving Notion, which is one of my favorite fuzzes of all time. And which it's now like impossible to find because Infinitum hasn't existed in years. But you can get very close to that sound with the Dusky Amps Augustus.
And is it Dusky, Dusky?
Yeah, Dusky out of Durham, North Carolina.
Wow. All right.
Shout out to Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Dusky Amps. Cool. Yeah, we'll have to check them out. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, he also makes an amp called the D2O, which is incredibly good sounding. But,
man, now I got to check him out. I'll tell him you sent us. See, I love that. There's so many new. I constantly get emails. I constantly get DMs. They're like, "Hey, you need to check this person out." We're busy checking people out and trying to talk to them, and I love it when we get turned on to somebody new. So thank you for mentioning that. What do you got for number 2?
Number 2 is someone you do know from Audio Disruption Devices, ADD Pedals, The Lag.
Oh yeah.
So for those of you who don't know. The Lag is a dual delay. It's got 2 delay chips in it. You have control over time and feedback for each delay chip, a master wet dry mix, and then the best part of the pedal, in my opinion, is you have a knob that mixes in between parallel, so you have the 2 delays not interacting with each other, and series. The 2 delays are going into each other and interacting.
That's cool.
It is, and you can mix in between the 2, which that's where the most fun is. Typically, I like to set it parallel first, kind of set the delays where you get those kind of patterns like a Benson Echo Rec, so you can get those bump, ba-dum, ba-dum delay sounds, and then you mix it back in the series, and it just kind of becomes this interesting textured wash. It is very fun. I've known Dan for years. It's a great pedal. You should get one. Yeah. He's coming out with a new version that has has modulation built into it. And it's gonna, I don't know. He said it's gonna have like a random modulation mode as well, which I'm super interested in. Wow. I may have to upgrade.
Dan's a good guy too, and is making some pretty outstanding stuff. I love the form factors he's using. He's got. It's kind of like an old sort of Mission Command type of console-y thing to it on a lot of his
it's like 70s sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it looks like, especially on the Overloader Deluxe. He's got some knobs that I hadn't seen.
I did the circuit board for that one.
Oh, that's right. That was one of those mentions. Aha. Well done. So let's see what's next.
Next is the Von Gogh Paragraphs. This was an out of nowhere one for me. I got this part of a Secret Satan last year. That for every Secret Satan I ever do. You haven't heard that one before, have you?
No, that's a new one.
Every single one, I just put. What pedals do you like? Fuzz. And the Mad Lad got me Paragraphs, which is a full synthesizer low pass filter. Has controls for the amount of filter, cutoff frequency, resonance, but it also has this very fun. Instead of having like a speed and depth, it has a rise, a fall, and a multiplier. So you can actually really tailor the waveform into what you're looking for.
Wow.
And it's just, I don't know, since I didn't expect it, I've had tons of fun with it. It has MIDI and CV out as well, which I've never touched, but I've heard are incredibly deep. And it's in a very straight. Todd, you might like this a lot with your visual background. It's not in a normal pedal enclosure. It looks like an old synthesizer where everything's mounted to the panel and it has like little lines to dictate, hey, this interacts with this, and this is how the wave shape is interacting.
And what's the name of this again?
It is the Vongon, VONGON paragraphs.
All right. Yes, I like it. Looks like there's one in. Okay, yeah. Don't. This is not the one in the wood with the wood panel enclosure, right?
No, that is I believe that's the Ultra Shear, which is also very cool looking.
Yeah, this is weird. It almost reminds me of the Tensor a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know, just with
much
the
less
visual.
complex than the Tensor.
Yeah, well, everything is, but I kid. It's amazing. I just am too dumb to figure it out. Well, this is very, very cool, man. That's a great 4 on the floor.
Well, we still got one more.
By that's I meant what you're gonna tell us. I was early on that.
How about number 4?
So this is the one that I spent a lot of time on. Last time I was on, I shouted out another small builder, and I wanted to fill my first slot with another person that is pretty small and you really may not have heard of. And I had a couple, and I sat down with all of my 4 on the floor. I tried them all out to decide which one I wanted, and it came down to the somewhat local to you, Malaise Forever Customs, Clubber Lang. I've known Zach for a long time. In fact, full disclosure, I also did the circuit board for Clubber Lang, but it is kind of a low gain harmonic percolator. It's a hybrid. It's got one germanium transistor, one silicon transistor. What makes it really special is it has a full range MOSFET boost before the harmonic percolator. So you can dial down the boost and have those kind of clangy harmonic percolator tones, or as you turn up the burn control to really drive the whole thing, and it becomes a lot smoother than most percolators I've played. I also have to say the tone control on this thing is the best tone control I've ever played. A lot of tone controls on pedal, right? You have that full open position, you're getting all your treble, all the bass, and then you turn it down and it becomes too woolly at one point. The tone control on the Clubber Lang is not like that. Zach really played with the curve of it, where the whole thing is useful throughout the whole thing. Even the voicing all the way down is still very useful. Malaise Forever Customs, Clubber Lang. If you're in the harmonic percolators, this is another must-have.
Right on. This is another case where someone might say, why don't you have Malaise Forever on the show? I mean, they're in your hometown. I'm imagining that's what they're saying, what they sound like.
That's what I'm saying right now.
Yeah. Well, we did talk, and respectfully, Malaise is like,
it's not his thing.
Not his thing. No shade on us. He's like, but it's just not everybody's comfortable doing that. We've had there's a lot of people that are not comfortable doing it.
I'm still not comfortable doing it.
Too late to back out now.
One with
Can I put my clothes back on now, Todd?
Jeez. Boy, that is a mighty fine 4 on the floor.
Finally.
Yes. Finally, that is a great 4 on the floor. I'm very interested about this Vongon. Actually, something that I was just recently messing around with, inspired by some of the functionality of the Overloader Deluxe. It was playing around with band passing and high pass and low pass and all that business. And I was trying to do something along those lines, trying to punch it into the HX Stomp. So like, oh, I wonder if I kick the switch over here, what would that sound like? Well, it didn't do the same things. Not so good. Not quite as awesome. Or at least I haven't figured out the best way to do it on the Stomp. Yeah, really got to massage that stuff. But this seems like something that you could have a ton of fun doing with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I mean, it's got 7 knobs on the face. That's already way more fun.
Yeah, well, it says on the front, and this is what one of the things that kind of caught my attention. It says resonant low pass filter with waveform generator. That means lots of fun in French.
Wow.
Yeah, anyways.
I didn't know you spoke French.
Yeah. So that's a great 4 on the floor. We've already said that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, it's always fun hearing what the builders out there are kind of into at the moment. And speaking of into at the moment, last time that we talked to Alec here, it was like kind of right on the heels of a real big spike for the Black Math pedal. It was Black Math was kind of up in everybody's grill at the moment, and that was this big giant box pedal that he put out that made me. It kind of, to me, it looked like a Black Flag thing, but it's not, and it wasn't, and it isn't. So we started talking. We had him on the show. He was a great guest. He recorded it in the closet of his home.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I remember that now.
Underneath all the shirts and everything.
Yep. Hey, before we get into too
Yes.
deep, Alec, where can people find out more about you?
Tell us.
They can find me at maskaudioelectronics.com or on Instagram at maskaudioelectronics. We make that easy.
Is that your tagline?
We make that easy.
We make that easy.
We make that easy.
Yes. So, anyways, back to Alec. When we were talking with him, you were right about to release, or you were getting close to, or you were in the prototype throes, as I recall, of something called the Parts Garden.
Yeah, I actually had to go. I listened to my episode and then had to go. I have a cheat sheet in front of me to write down all of the things that have happened since we last talked. Because that was the first public mention of Part Garden, and it released, I think, like a month later.
Yeah.
And it is now 2 years later. It is my best-selling pedal. I am finishing up I just finished up a run that's going to release in January. That included number 300.
That's
Wee-haw!
amazing. Right on, man.
Good for you.
That was, that's a big number.
That's fantastic.
So
considering you hadn't sold any.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Ian and I have been real happy with that. So, but yeah, I do have a cheat sheet in front of me to talk about. I'm going to rush through some of the 2020 stuff so I can talk more about the stuff that happened this year.
Before you do that, if you were to summarize your niche in this guitar effects world, how would you classify that for those who might be going like, who's this guy? What does he do?
I make weird fuzz and weird fuzz accessories.
Okay.
That is my niche. I have an obsession with dirt pedals that most people don't seem to have. And if you tell me you don't like fuzz, I take that as an insult, and I will listen to you until I introduce you to a fuzz you like.
Tony, remain silent.
I will remain silent.
Okay, so that's a good setup, and I think it's also worth mentioning we've kind of dipped our pinky toe into this, which is you. Not only are you making pedals for yourself, but you are really intertwined into a lot of the building community out there right now.
Yeah, I was hoping John Esterly of Rare Buzz Effects was going to be on tonight, because I had a really embarrassing intro for him.
Oh no,
and he wasn't. The dang guy, he's too busy probably driving a train somewhere.
It's likely, and in all fairness, we what do you call it? We hotwired this episode because I was like, "Yo, I got a space, jump on." He's like, "Okay," so You are.
I'm
said
pitch
that.
hitting tonight.
You are pinch hitting. We appreciate that. So, anyways, that is sort of a rough idea, and based on the 4 on the floor, I think you might have a really good idea of like what he's into. So, why don't you tell us where you've been and where you're updating, and give us the lowdown on it?
Yeah. So, as I said, I'm gonna rush through some of the 2020 stuff. So, my first big thing for 2020 was the pandemic. We all switched into. I was still in school at the time, and that switch. I was in the computer science IT department. Luckily, our instructors were at least competent with computers, but they still had trouble teaching online. But what I was doing while being bored in class was teaching myself how to work with surface mount components, because sitting at my desk soldering resistors for hours and hours got a little old. And so my first practice with that is I took a DIY project I sell called Titan, which is basically a big muff stripped down to its bare essentials and hot wired for as much gain as I can squeeze out of the circuitry. I took that, I converted it to surface mounts. I actually hand stamped and hand painted all of them, and I released that. There's been 2 runs of them. Later that year, I finally released Maybe, which are my no octave fuzz and my yes gated fuzz mashed together in one enclosure with some extra options. It is the least musical fuzz I make, but it is also the most fun fuzz I make. It's a lot of fun to sit there and twiddle knobs and flick switches, because there's a lot of unexpected combinations you can get out of it. My favorite is there's a setting of switches on the yes side that you could just get an octave down fuzz and do a fake weird bass with it for no reason. I don't know why that works. Someone smarter. Maybe I should send it off to John at Electronic Audio Experiments to put it under a scope, because there's no reason it should work like that, but it does. Which brings us to 2021, where at the beginning of the year, I was going through the files in my PCB design program. And actually, I have to go back a little bit further. When Ian Pritchard of the demo channel Collector Emitter,
right,
who I did part garden with, when we were initially got together to start working on something, we had a whole bunch of ideas. We had 4 ideas simultaneously. And we worked on at least one prototype for all of them. Some had more merit. Some will go off to the Mask Audio Elephant Graveyard for all eternity. But so we chose Park Garden as the one we liked the most, and that's the one we released out into the world. So in the beginning of 2021, I was going through my files and I came across one of the other ones we liked a lot that we did a second round of prototyping for, called Cascader, which it's kind of a hodgepodge of electroharmonics and Deviever DNA. Go ahead, Todd.
Well, I was just going to say, Devi Ever has been mentioned many times, and there's a lot of sort of lore around the Devi Ever stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm finding
can be written on
so
all the crazy stuff that's gone on with that. But that Devi Ever, one of the maybe earlier, writing the early wave of the boutique heavy-duty fuzz varietals.
Yeah, heavy influence on me. She was a mad woman from Portland who was selling just the weirdest sounding fuzz for $100 all day long. Mm-hmm. I counted yesterday because I bought a new one. I have 28 of them.
Wow.
So yeah,
I have the Torns Peaker. That's the one that I've got.
That is an excellent one. I would also, if you like the Torn speaker, I would look for a Black Spider, which is a dual channel. It's got a Torn speaker on one side. I forget what's on the other side. I think it's the Never Drive.
I was thinking it might be the Sodomizer.
No, because the torn speaker with the sodomizer is the shoegazer.
That's right. That's right.
These are things I know off the top of my head like a nerd.
You know what? And when I get home, I'll shoot you a picture of the artwork on mine, because mine torn speaker has the rainbow with like sort of like the anyway, we're getting into the weeds.
This
is what happens, people, when you get all hopped up on stuff. You get excited about the little things.
All right. Anyways,
I digress. Anyway, back to you.
So I was looking through my PCB files, and I came across this file for Cascader, and on a whim, I opened it up and I looked at it and like, without looking at it for 2 years, I'm like, okay, there's still something good here. So on a whim, I kind of redid it to how I would do it now as a more experienced designer. I sent it off for a prototype. I built it up. And I sent a video off to Ian of me playing through this prototype. I'm like, hey, I visited Cascader. Maybe we could do something with it. And he's like, well, from when we were working on it before, I think it might be cool to like make it a one knob thing. And that just got my brain working. Because I always love one knob pedal, the simplicity of a one knob pedal, that all you got to work with is the one knob on the pedal and the two knobs on your guitar, or four knobs, however many knobs you have on your guitar. And that's it. So that got me working, and I immediately threw that idea out and put on an extra switch and an extra foot switch, because, well, it is just one knob. It didn't sit right with me not to have a little bit of extra versatility to be able to work it to your rig. That, and, we had a yaw switch on Park Garden, and, the follow-up needed to have a yaw switch because people seem to like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y-U-H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite restaurants that is no longer there, when I was living in where I grew up in Orange County, there was a place called Johnny Rebs. It was one of those places where the floor is covered in peanuts and like the whole 9 yards. And the kitchen said there was two swinging doors, and one said yep and one said nope. Anyways. So yeah, there we go.
That's how you get. That's how you keep from getting a door slammed in your face.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, pedals. Oh, I did want to mention. We've dropped several people that have actually been on the show, and for those that might be wondering, like, well, okay, you said they've been on the show. We got 200 plus. What's going on? ADD pedals was episode 198. So you might want to write that down, or tell Siri to go find it. Also, collector emitter Ian Pritchard was 229.
Yeah.
So there you go. Back to you, Alec.
Yeah. So we worked on it for, God, it was about 6 months. We literally, it was very funny that Ian told me we had it like 90% there on the second prototype. And then we did 3 more prototypes for that last 10%. Because it's as I said, you don't have much. So the voicing of it was important. We wanted it to work well with all the guitars in our collection. And then we sent the prototypes on a countrywide tour to all of our friends to make sure it worked with their weird and very specific rigs. That's why the aforementioned Clint McDuffie of Deep Space Devices, he has the last prototype.
Oh, wow.
Which is how I got a dust. So yeah, that came out on Halloween and sold out within a day.
Nice.
So that's what I'm currently working on, is the restock of that, which will also be happening in January, which leads us to the thing I'm here to promote, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is me and Todd talked about this before the podcast, but also going back a year, development on guitar pedals takes a while. Me and Jordan Clayton from Pinebox Customs, also a guest on the podcast. I don't know what episode.
I'm working on
it. Have had a long-standing relationship. He's done all of the screen printing and powder coating for my pedals since nearly the beginning. Not quite all the way at the beginning, but since most people have known me, he's done that work. He's done some graphic design stuff for me as well. So we've always thrown around the idea of collaborating on something. And so it finally, it's really fun how the whole story of Fever Dream starts. It's with like a very early morning text with this huge piece of artwork. And Jordan just says, "This is the best thing I've ever done. I want to put it on a huge pedal to show it off." I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And then like 2 weeks later, he sends me a text saying, "Hey, you got a minute for me to call you? I have an idea." And that call took about 2 hours. And over the course of that 2 hours, Jordan and I talked over the whole thing. It was his idea from the jump of, yeah, it's going to be this fuzz into a filter, but it's also going to have a CB microphone input. I'm like,
That's so wild.
That's weird as hell. And he's like, yeah, but no one's ever done it. And that's why we need to do it.
Yeah.
Plus we have this giant,
It's huge. I have one of those size at my house that I ordered on accident. And I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? It's huge.
If you check out at Pinebox Customs or at Mask Audio Electronics, we posted a ton of pictures of them. It is literally, I'd say it's face sized. It's like 2 brick size.
Yeah.
It is your pedal board.
Yeah. I had my daughter hold it up to her face, and I was like, just take a picture because this is ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, it is hilariously big, but it's got this fantastic art piece on it.
It really
But yeah,
is
over
amazing.
the course of that call, we hammered out all the details that it would be modulated. And so I was the primary designer on it. So I designed it in pieces where, okay, I had most of a filter ready, and then I just started working on the fuzz to go with it. When in August of this year, Jordan texts me again saying, "Hey, you got a minute to talk?" Much shorter conversation. Reverb had approached him and wanted to work on something. Wanted to they're like, "We want to put out something cool with you. What do you want to do?" And Jordan was like, "This is the coolest thing I have. Are you okay with me putting it in front of them?" Which I'm like, sure, okay. And so it comes back a few days later that, okay, they're fine with putting it out. So we are given a release date and an order for 200 pedals, which is the most of one pedal I've ever had to make at once. And I'm not sure if any of you have heard the news, but there's supply chain issues.
Yes.
So that has been, especially developing a pedal with weird parts such as CB microphones, and even harder, you wouldn't think it would be harder, but it was harder to get CB microphone jacks. It literally until the end of November, I worked on Fever Dream every single day.
Wow. So is the CB input jack actually functional?
Yes, and it will Fever Dream will include a CB microphone for you to use with it. It is in parallel. It is in parallel with the guitar, but they both join together to go into the fuzz and the filter. So you can get these weird textures with it where you're actually talking and playing at the same time, and they just fight each other, which is super cool. Or you could just run the CB microphone on its own and get its own like distorted textures, or even just use it as a CB microphone interface. Sorry. Big pedal to do that, but you could do it.
Yeah. Now, okay, so the $1 million question, hopefully it's not a $1 million question. What is this thing going to go for? Can you tell us?
Yeah.
Well, it'll already be out by that time.
Yeah. So I don't know if people will be able to buy it by the time. It might be sold out, fingers crossed, knock on wood. But it comes out on December 9th, which is this Thursday.
2 days.
For 300 bones.
That's a steal for that, man.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. Yeah, it's a low pass it's a fuzz going into a low pass filter. So as you turn down the filter, you're rolling off your highs, leaving your lows alone. But it's also modulated. So you can have that filter sweeping, and at low depth values and medium speed, it does a really fun like fake harmonic tremolo thing, which is so like turn the gain all the way down. Something you'll never hear me say. Turn that gain all the way down.
Right.
Turn the depth just about 9 o'clock and the speed about 11. And it does this amazing fake harmonic tremolo. It's my favorite sound.
That's awesome.
Huh.
That is awesome. Now, I think with this kind of a pedal, you've mentioned a lot of the functionality. And I think there's probably a percentage of people who are like, yep. And there's also a large percentage of people that are like, what? Can you share like some of the sounds that you were talking about? What would you liken them to? Like, where might we have heard some of these sounds?
Oh God.
Do your best.
Yeah, because I don't know who uses harmonic tremolo other than I suppose it kind of can get that vibey Robin Trower kind of thing.
Okay.
I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Other than when you start bringing up the gain, and there are settings with the resonance and the filter that you can absolutely do every single sound off the first two Queens of the Stone Age records. Trust me, I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard.
Well, that's okay.
This is one of the few times that I don't have, because that's one of my reference points that I try to go into with pedals.
It almost sounds like some of the stuff that you might actually get out of like a bullhorn. That's what I'm imagining. Like, because I think when you say the mic, the CB thing, and you don't have to use the CB. You can choose your guitar, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So, but some of the things you're talking about, messing with the frequencies and the gain, so you could get things that are like, I don't know. Use your imagination. You'll probably get it in this pedal. How about that?
Absolutely. And we will have demos from Ian Pritchard. And amazingly, I get a Andy demo, which has been a bucket list. Andy, he's been employed by Reverb for a few years now. He previously was at Pro Guitar Shop. I imagine most of the listeners of the podcast would probably know who he is. He is like the demo guy, and it is like a bucket list
Fingers
item for
McGee. I think he always goes by as well. So,
that's been a bucket list item for me, and I'm glad it gets to be this
That's
pedal.
so cool. I'm really, really excited for you guys. And this, the artwork on this is amazing. The fun and the sound that goes into this is just incredible. I mean, it's a real, very cool thing that you guys are doing.
You will be inspired. I guarantee it.
Indeed. So what's next beyond this? What else? I know that you got to be working on a few more things, and we'll give us one or two, and before we start wrapping it.
It's hard to. So the one thing I can kind of comment on are Jordan and I are working up on a follow-up thing to Fever Dream. That's in the works. We're hoping to get it out. Hate to be technical, but Q1 sometime before the end of March.
Wow.
It's pretty far along in development already.
When you're saying a follow-up, what crumbs can you give us? I mean, you just told us about this amazing pedal that's going to be out, some of whom people won't even be able to get it. And then you got a follow-up. One crumb.
It is related to Fever Dream, but it is not a pedal.
Is it a cowbell?
Only if you get the prescription.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. It's not a pedal.
It's not a pedal. It's I'm giving more away. We could talk after the podcast.
Yeah,
I can't publicly.
Don't publicly
say
do anything
about it. Yeah, Jordan.
You
will,
always get in trouble then if you do anything publicly.
Yep.
Jordan, if I talk about it publicly, Jordan will mail me a horse head, and it will be. It will not be a pretty sight.
I understand. I will not. I will not press on that any further. But it's safe to say, aside from the awesome collaborations you're doing, do you have any of your just mask stuff that's going to be coming out?
We'll see. I do have I have a modulation pedal in the pipeline. It's a phaser. We'll see if I can do everything I want with it, and we'll see when I'm done with the prototyping process if I can get everything to actually put it out into the world. It's coming down the pipe finally. I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure if it will come out next year. It might 2022 may be the first year without a new release, without a full banner release from Mask Audio, which honestly was 7 pedals under. No, it's more than that because I also have Eldritch Blast. I have Rip. I have a lot of pedals under my belt. I think I deserve a little bit of a break.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And like the Eldritch Blast, that's another collaboration. So you're collaborating up the wazoo, and not even and some of the things you're not even like doing an overt collaboration with. You know, you're
so I do contract circuit board design that people come to me with a schematic or sometimes an idea. And they don't want to spend the time to do the circuit board or
they can't.
Right.
We've talked about this in the past where it's like, we've got some, not everybody is, gifted in all of the aspects of putting out a pedal. There's sound design, there's electronic design, there's actual aesthetic design, there's prototyping, there's packaging, there's marketing. It's like there's a lot that goes into it. And there's a handful of people that can do all of those things really well. I think that people that can do some of that, smart to go to stand on the shoulders of giants to get your vision through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll give a shout out to my latest client, Moreland Effects, Andrew out of Atlanta, who does some really cool classic Mojo takes using all vintage components of like your fuzz face and your harmonic percolator and the Burns buzz around, which I have never been excited about a Burns buzz around, but he made me hype on it. He's like, yeah, I had a guy. I'm not all interested in doing a circuit board. I've been doing these on, it's called perf board, which it's literally just a board with a bunch of metallic holes in it, and you have to manually make all the connections yourself. And he's like, I'm tired of doing that. So he came to me and I did a board for him.
That's
Actually,
awesome.
I did 4 boards.
Wow. That's fantastic, man. We'll have to check that out too.
Another great example, and I don't think he would mind me saying this, Grant from Big Ear Pedals. He isn't really a technical dude, but he has Eric Johnson ears. Grant can describe to you the most minute differences between pedals, and the way I wish I had his level of vocabulary of talking about the little nuances between pedals, but he hasn't designed, but he's been able to explain his way through all of his pedals.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think there's room there for everybody. So if you have a good idea, if you've got some kind of vision, reach out to the community that we talk about every single week and connect with somebody, and you will find some way to get that realized. I guarantee that. Asterisk, we don't have any lawyers and we don't guarantee anything.
Satisfaction is not guaranteed.
Yes. Hey, Alec, this has been so good catching up. We've been talking about doing this for several months now.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we got to talk to Alec. Hey, we got to talk to Alec.
Well,
and so happy we did.
At early 2020, I think in January, we said, I'm going to be passing through. We'll do an in-person podcast.
Yep.
Like that happened.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's always time in the future for that to happen.
There will be the future.
We are going to. We're driving past. I'm in the back of the El Camino with Alec, and I'm slapping on the window, the little slider window on the back of the El Camino. And Tony's driving. I'm going, keep it going.
Oh God, this is scary.
Jared's sick. Don't stop.
Say you're walking down the street. And a little magical elf on a shelf pops out and says, Todd?
Yes.
Or whoever.
But it's shaped like Jared.
Insert name here.
It's like a bigger version of an elf on a shelf. The shelf's a little bit, it's Jared on a shelf.
Jared on a shelf.
Yeah.
That's right.
A miniature Jared on a shelf.
No, it's a full-size Jared
Jared on a shelf who thinks he's miniature.
He thinks
I like this. Okay, where are we going?
Like my dog that thinks it's a lap dog.
Yes.
And he says, it's the Christmas season, and you've been an awfully good boy. That's what the full-size Jared elf
sounds like.
He sounds like that. Now, at the North Pole...
Is he Gilbert Gottfried?
It might be. It sounds very similar to Gilbert Gottfried.
Is Jared sitting on Gilbert Gottfried's lap and is also a dummy?
Well,
yeah.
At the North Pole, we only make two kinds of guitars. One is an Explorer with a Santa Claus print on it. And the other is a flying V with beautiful candy canes all over it. Now, you can't have both, but you can have your choice of one because you've been especially good this year. Would you rather an Explorer with a Santa Claus print or a flying V with candy canes?
And then a poof of smoke happens, but he's not able to get away fast enough before the smoke dissipates, and he has trouble climbing down the whole 9 yards.
Where's my Oreos?
This kind of came up, I suspect.
Yes.
That Elf Jared was thinking about this because something that's kind of like I think been making a little bit been a little bit more visible as of late. There seem to be a few more fabric coated guitars. You've got the Paisley out there. You've got the Daisies.
The tartan plaid.
You did an unbelievable Japanese print one that looks. That's so amazing.
Japanese
Chase
tattoo
Gullett
art.
is making an absolutely gorgeous one right now.
Yeah.
So I'm suspecting that kind of came from this. And the other cool thing is I'm pretty sure that I heard, had my ear to the door in the workshop, that these also have a bit of a exterior burst to complement the color theme.
Yes, you'd have to.
Yeah.
You'd have to.
So this is very exciting. What are you going to do, Tony?
Well, I'm always, I've had both. I don't have an Explorer right now, but I do have a V. And I still find the Explorer to be a much more comfortable playing guitar, at least for me. The angles and everything fit my forearm. I like that. And I think a Santa Claus print on an Explorer, that would just be killer.
Yeah.
And one extra thing I would like is
is this a green Explorer with the Santa Claus print, or is it what color is the actual base?
The background on both of these,
we're talking about like wrapping paper style.
Yeah, I would say the background on both of these is going to be a nice Christmassy green, and then the Santa Claus print will have the Jolly Elf himself.
Yes,
in several places. The candy cane one will be the same thing, except it'll have candy canes on it. And each of the volume and tone controls have red-nosed toppers
Oh my!
in honor of
You've turned this into
Sir-
a very ugly guitar.
Sir Rudolph. That they glow in the dark, so you can see it.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I kind of like this as a red guitar.
Okay.
I think let's make this red.
Okay,
Right?
Todd. Whatever you say.
No. Silver.
Silver.
Like that sort of like silvery white paper.
Silver bells.
Silvery white paper with the red the red burst. Yeah?
In the city. Okay, whatever you want to do.
Now
Todd.
we're talking.
All right.
Okay, this is a much better looking guitar than you just described. So
If you say so.
okay, so you're going.
It doesn't change my mind.
It doesn't change your. Yes.
I still want the Explorer,
Okay.
and I'm especially keen on the red-nosed knobs that glow.
You want red balls for the knobs.
No, like Rudolph's red-nosed reindeer.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
I'm familiar.
You know
I'm familiar.
Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen, Comet and Cupid, and Donner and Blitzen.
Yeah.
But do you recall the most
All right.
famous reindeer of all?
Okay. This is a 3-hour show.
We're gonna
Tony.
get DMCA.
Jiminy Christmas. So okay. Thank you, Tony. Let's see what Alec wants to do.
My Jewish family would give me so many weird looks if I had a guitar with Santa hanging on the wall that I am forced into the Candy Cane V. But also I could do like a White Stripes cover band.
True.
Because white stripes, you got the red and the white and the black.
Yeah.
I think with a red and white it would work.
Yeah. I could see that happening.
You could be the red and white stripes.
You could even do, you know what you could do with that? You could also do red pearl inlay for the neck. Oh, that'd be crazy.
Never make that
right?
noise ever again. I'm talking for the entire audience. You stop that.
Stop it, Todd. Todd, what's your choice?
Well, I love both of these shapes, and I really, really like a V.
Yeah.
But I think I gotta go with. I love Christmas, and I do really love Santa Claus, so I'm going with the Santa Claus one. I like that. The Explorer. Yeah. Let's do that.
Very nice.
I'll have one of those, please, waiter. So big giant thanks to big giant tiny Jared Elf.
Jared Elf.
For coming up with this one. Much thanks, and glad that the El Camino passed his house.
Yes.
For this special one. So
indeed.
I hope you guys had fun out there listening along and figuring out, well, which one would you want? And maybe yours was different colors and stuff. Hopefully it wasn't that. Well, it might. Somebody probably had that green one that he just described. Oof. Anyways, we need to thank a few people.
You're right, Todd, because at this point of the show, we like to thank a special group of people. We call them our executive producers. These folks make the show possible. Now, you might be wondering, how can I and how can Santa Claus become an executive producer? It's quite simple. You go over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs. Check out a couple different levels in which you can participate. Become a sponsor, a patron of this very podcast. Each level comes with a great bevy of thank you gifts, including things like, oh my goodness, picks and stickers and T-shirts, and the list is endless. But as an executive producer, you get all the great stuff, all of it. And there's one thing more. Alec?
You get your name read on the thing.
Your name read on the thing, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers. Mr. Tom Berezin, Darren Gregory, Doug Christ, Ken Sayers, Michael Senchuk, Stefan Lamb, Anthony Lathrop, John Englund, John Esterly, Justin Jones, James White, Matt Hart, Bill Gola Guitars, Richard Kendall, John Jackson, Jason Rausch, Gary Koopa, Mark Garton, Elad Mizrahi, Mikey D, Trevor Gunberg, Rick Calhoun, Anthony Gemalero, John Helverson, Drew Lopez, Vader and Pedals, and Moon Guitars.
Indeed.
But wait, Todd, there's more. There's more because we have in the upper echelon of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs. These fine folks have their own executive suites on the penthouse level in which they can enjoy the podcast in their fez in a giant pool. Not a giant one. An individual hot tub filled with some orange liquid of mysterious
weird.
Nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's orange Faygo.
Pumpkin sauce.
Orange Faygo.
Yeah.
Insane Clown Posse. Isn't that what they like?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. Yay! I knew something. I've been a good boy.
Keep it moving there.
So special
Floppy.
thanks to these grand poobahs. Jonathan Jerusik, Corey Nigro, David Kaminga, Science of Sound, Cody Foster, Sean S. Tom Imanasco, Adam Johnson, Steve Keys, Tim Nowak, Tyler Rhines, James Pennington, Ellis J Music Company, John Williams, Johnny Morales, Mel Sanders, Bob Crouch, Sam Jett, Michio Murakishi, Martin Cliff, Hex Matos, Michael Van Zant, Brian Robinson, John Daly, Ricardo Igareda, and Brandon Wound Pickups.
Right on. Thank you all so humongously very much.
Thank you, patrons.
Thank Alex. I messed that up. I took away the S from thanks and added it to Alec. So hopefully you guys all heard. Thanks, Alec. Speaking of you, where can people find the things that they need to buy from you?
They can find them at maskaudioelectronics.com or just message me on Instagram at maskaudioelectronics.
Excellent. And Tony?
Well, just go over to pickguardian.com. Check out some of the things that I have available for sale. By and large, what I do is custom work. So shoot me an email. Let me know what you need, what you want to do. And I might have a tip or two for you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
And
you'll need a Paisley Meteora pickguard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. A pink and green and black shell pink.
all the weird
Pickguard.
stuff.
And if you need to get a hold of Jared, go to jaredonashelf.com.
Yeah. You can send me an email, Todd at theguitarknobs.com. You can also DM me on Instagram at guitarknobs. Love to hear your would you rathers. Hopefully you've been inspired and come up with something fun for us to do. We are grateful for Alec out there doing his thing and for stopping by and sharing his time with us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alec.
No problem. Thanks for having me again.
You bet. Everybody have a fantastic guitar weekend. Subscribe.
Oh, yeah.
I'll suffer through it. I'll suffer through it.
Fucking
How, Alec? How you doing, buddy?
It's the most wonderful time
wonderful time of the year.
Dong, ding, dong.
You got us two goons.
I'll take it.
Good. That's what you get.
That's all you get.
Oh, boy.
See what people are. Jeez.
Well, there's a reason there's not a lot of them.
Slacker. Lazy bastard.
Lazy.
Sorry. We'll get back to your restless soul in a second there, lover boy. And
Oh, my God.
yeah. And
Oh, my God.
yeah. I got to get some water too. I'm drinking this
Switch that chair out.
stale
too.
coffee. My chairs. Give me 5.
I'll talk.
I got 5 on it.
T1.
Radio Transmission.
Barbecue
Radio.
iguana.
Transmission. I know we're I feel like we're the belly button of the country. Although, really, Tennessee's probably, actually 7 states border Tennessee. So Tennessee is the true belly button.
My grandfather and his brother made kielbasi in Newcastle.
Wow. This is riveting stuff.
Like another, it's like 20 minutes closer to the city.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, it's further away. It's further north, I
By
think.
closer, you mean further.
By closer, you mean further.
Ooh. What are you doing?
What's up with that? What's up with that?
The hell? Anyways, all right. He didn't come on the show to listen to this nonsense.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.